Hey, thank you for being online with me this afternoon in this little user group that I put together to talk about business analysis essentials. And what I want to do is kind of go over just three things: what this class is, why you should care, and how it works. So basically, business analysis essentials is, like any other business analysis class, with one exception, and it's this. Um, I'm an efficiency coach, and what I'm going to do is teach you and your team how to do this the most efficient way possible. Now, let me tell you why that matters. You know, one of the biggest issues that I run into with my students, and by the way, I've trained thousands of students, and one of the issues that comes up a lot is that when they go out to elicit requirements, the challenge that they have is that the events that they're doing take so long that there's not enough time to do them multiple times, and therefore they don't get as good information as they normally would if they were more efficient about it. So one of the things that we strive for is helping you and your staff get around to more stakeholders more times, basically to iterate through your cycle more often so that the requirements information that you get back is better and better and better. All right, so with that, I want to talk about, how it works. So like any class, you're going to get, we're going to give you a printed workbook. We're also going to give you an Acrobat copy of the course slides, as well as Microsoft Excel worksheets. So, they're in the book printed as well as an electronic version. Now, unlike most classes, our worksheets are actually designed to be efficient. And, that's the thing is when you're looking at other types of courseware, um, most of the courseware isn't really designed with efficiency in mind. And we think that makes a huge difference. And here's why. Our goal when you come to class is for you and your team to actually be able to work on existing projects. And so what we want to do is work you through a process that allows them to put together what we call working papers so that at the end of the class, they've got a huge section of their project done simply by coming to class. And we think that that's really important, not only for them and their time, but more importantly for their learning, because the more they're working on their own projects in class, the more they're going to take away when they go back to their job. So that's really important to us. So now let me tell you how this class works, how it's set up in a more of a detail area. So this section is really just a background kind of overview section where we go in and we're going to talk about, what are the roles of a business analyst, what are some basic skills that they need to have, what are some advanced skills they need to have, and how you actually define a requirement. And that's important because for a lot of people, they sort of get bogged down in, is it a request or is it a requirement? So we're going to clearly make that differentiated so that they really understand this is a requirement, this is not. Along those lines, we're going to talk about all the different types of requirements that your staff can run into, and there are lots of them. And all of this is done within the framework of the IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis, and their book, The Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. Along those very lines, it's important for us that if somebody on your team is interested in pursuing the credential, we completely want to be able to support some conversation about that. So we'll talk to them about the CBAP, the Certified Business Analyst Professional. So the first of the 6 kind of main sections of the course is enterprise analysis. And in this section, we are trying to make the case to a business analyst that they are an architect of information or of data. And it's important for them to understand how the data or information flows through the enterprise and how it relates to how the enterprise operates. What's going to happen is that the more they learn about that, the more they're going to be able to see gap analysis. And that's going to drive their ability to then create what we call feasibility studies, which are, the idea about how they're going to solve that gap. And as with any documentation or hey, we have a solution to a problem, your executives are going to want to know the classic, when are we going to get it and how much is it going to cost? So we're going to teach your analysts how to add on a business case and also how to address uncertainty in the form of risk assessment. And you take all those pieces, you put them together, it's called a decision package. And what that allows your executives to do is what we call project selection. Now, Assuming that your projects get selected, then what happens is the analyst moves into another phase, kind of puts on a new hat, where they have to now launch the project either by themselves or with a project manager. And more importantly, we're going to teach your analyst what to do during the project, which is really manage for value. As with any good project, the more kind of upfront planning or thought that you put into it, the better the execution on the back end. So we're going to teach your analysts how to identify stakeholders in the process, and more importantly, how to get them to participate. You'll have a lot of stakeholders, but you only have a few key stakeholders, and so we're going to show them how to identify those key stakeholders and how to get them involved in the process, which then leads us to just generically planning. And what we're going to do is show your analysts how to kind of put together an efficient plan that allows them to move through all of the other phases: elicitation, analysis, communication through documentation, and validation as well. The last thing we're going to teach your analysts in this section is how to manage change before it happens. And that's something that a lot of analysts aren't as comfortable with. Change is constant, and depending on your methodology, so if you're waterfall, it's a very formal change. If you're adaptive or agile, it's a much more high volume change and a little bit less formal in the approach. Regardless of your methodology, it's important for your business analysts to be comfortable with dealing with changes. So that's a big part of what we want to teach them up front in planning. Now we'll get into kind of the meat of why a lot of people come to a requirements or a business analysis class or a requirements class, and that's for elicitation. And one of the things that a lot of analysts aren't aware of, or no one really talks about, is that if you do some research up front, it's going to save you a lot of effort on the backside. So one of the things that we're going to do is teach your analysts how to go get the kind of information that they need in order to then set up the elicitation events that ultimately will drive the requirements process. As far as analysis goes, one of the things that I always tell students is I can't make you analytical. The fact that they are analysts means that they're most likely analytical. So what I do is I teach them what to look for. So in that regard, we're going to teach them how to structure requirements, and then more importantly, how to go identify, is this a user requirement? Is it functional? Is it a non-functional, or what we call a quality of service requirement? More importantly, how to put all that together in documentation. We think it's really important that an analyst builds outstanding documentation. We think that's absolutely critical to success. And so we're going to teach your analysts how to build documentation that can operate without them, something that we call cookbooks. Now, what that allows them to do is, once they got their paperwork together, then it makes it easier to then verify and validate that they've covered all their bases. Again, documentation, we call it communication through documentation. It is absolutely critical to the success of a business analyst. So we're going to teach your analysts how to put it together, how to plan for it, how to build these documents, and more importantly, how to present them and get sign-off from all the different stakeholders in the process. Which brings us to the last thing that we're going to address, which is validation. And a requirement is only good if it can get validated through QA or test. So one of the things that we try to do is teach analysts how to set it up properly up front so that it passes tests on the backside. And not just the technical test, but most importantly, the user acceptance test. So that's really the course in a nutshell. My name is Richard Frederick, and if you have any questions and you want to communicate with me, send me an email. Feel free to send me an email or call or text me, or if you're on LinkedIn, just go up to the chat up here and shoot me a chat message, and we'll go from there. Thanks for your time again. Have a great day.